I got you.
Salutations. Tara is eating aubergine parmigiana right now that Michael made, apparently, which sounds fucking brilliant.
I feel like we're doing breakfast television.
Welcome to On the Couch. We are in IKEA right now. We can't afford to actually have a studio, so we're doing this from IKEA.
You know, I think that would actually be pretty fun.
Yeah, I know.
That would be sweet. I wonder if people would stop you.
Well, I've told you about my plan to get a bunch of friends together and all take photos for our Christmas cards in a specific IKEA showroom and just queue up.
I don't think so, but I love this idea.
Yeah, we all go in October. Everyone needs their Christmas jumpers and shit. And we just have we bring stockings and things that we just hang on the fireplace, and we see how many photo shoots we can get away with till we get our sleep.
Bring our own food, crackers.
I love that idea.
Hi, Doro.
Hey, Doro.
Hi, Doro, they, them. Hi, Doro, they, them. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, that sounds like a freaking great idea. And I feel like the best thing is you could get your friends in other cities to find the same setup in their IKEAs because it's pretty standardized. And then you could have a group IKEA Christmas card with the little pictures of everyone in the same kind of setup in different IKEAs around the world.
Oh my God.
We're just splicing it together into one big photo, or?
I mean, you could do that, or you could do the lots of little smaller squares thing, and maybe we could tint them slightly to look like another picture. That sounds complicated. So either it need to be a really big couch. The fireplace in the middle would just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I like the idea of low cost cosplaying it, of just getting in there and guerrilla taking pictures for your. If we can get a picture of us being really happy with our stockings over the thing, and then when you open up the card, there's a picture of us being forcibly removed from IKEA by a worker.
Yeah, there's some poor bastard in the shot in their high-vis stuff.
This is not, you can't do this. Yeah.
Specifically, I want to recreate that one incredibly cursed Christmas card that Tony Blair and his wife sent out, where he's got this death rictus, or it seems like Cherie is kind of holding him back and being like, no, leave him, Tony, he's not worth it. He's he's got this wide fucking chimpanzee eyes.
Tony Blair is yeah. Evil war criminal.
Yep.
Did you hear about the butterfly king in Mexico who challenged the war criminals who run some of the avocado growth and then went missing?
Did you say butterfly king?
Yeah, that's what
I did. Because that's the best name.
Why is he the name of the Why is he the king of the butterflies?
Is it his wrestling?
Because he did this to protect an endangered species that was getting put further endangered on the avocado fields. So he went and stood up to them, and then he went missing. But he's someone who is an advocate for protecting endangered species of butterflies.
When you say he went missing, do you mean that he was vanished by the government?
Well, we don't know. Nobody knows.
Or at the moment of seeming certain death, he was spirited away into the air by flocks of butterflies just swarming him.
Let's say that's what happened.
Yeah, that's our happy ending here.
I want to believe.
It's like if a hippie venom. The butterflies are a symbiote that just gather around him, and their collective consciousness is kind of a homoerotic. I'm gonna stop talking and finish my tea.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
I know, I was really into where this was going. You said homoerotic, and I was like, you're taking this to the next level, okay.
What is it that's making that beeping sound?
Don't know.
Something's making a beeping sound in this room.
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, it's Doro! You shit.
Hey, Dora.
Beep, beep.
I'll come over there. I know where you live.
Do that, and I will make you tea. and chat with you.
That sounds really nice.
Oh, it's the best kind of threat.
Could you check that everything is turned off in that corner?
Sure, can do.
I love how if you say to someone in the right way, we're gonna be real good friends. It's both like a compliment and a threat. I never know how to take it. And this is my new favorite thing.
You know, I have a feeling like we're going to be real good friends.
Dora,
Yeah.
the feeling's mutual. We're gonna be real good friends.
Yes, I think it's a compliment.
I think it's a compliment, Pacey. This
Hey, Doro.
particular scenario.
Hey, Doro.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be very good friends.
I agree.
I love this like mutual kinds of ways. This is delightful. Anyways, Bracken, do you know what time it is?
Oh, let's look at the clock. Would you look at that? It's time for a story. Okay, do you need a recap from the last one? Doro, were you here?
Oh my God, Platt is an asshole. We knew it all along. He's like such a fucking dick.
He is such a fucking dick. That is true.
Bro, you're gonna be a secretary because no one wants you for anything else because of your inferior sex.
No logic, man.
Yeah, like
Right.
anything he can do, she can do bleeding.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that. Do we need a recap of anything else? So she went to Zurich, and she's in Zurich right now.
Oh,
Hi,
and we
Carmen.
just found what's her name? Hello, hi Carmen.
Yeah, we left her just finding Joanna.
Joanna, what's her name? Yes.
So she's in the house for runaway girls at the moment. So that's where we left her.
Wonderful.
So, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. I dash back into a hallway, down the rickety stairs, and smash headlong into the girl coming out of the washroom, so hard that I nearly knock the lamp from her hand. Felicity? It takes me a moment before I recognize her. Joanna. Without powder, pomade, or cosmetics, she looks a different person. Her skin is cratered with scars. I had forgotten she had measles when we were 10, and blotched with dry spots from the harsh winter air. Her hair is loose and falls to her waist, kinked from its plaits and lank with the sweat of a long journey. We stare at each other through the darkness, the thin beam of Joanna's lamp bathing us in a rosy glow. What are you doing here? She hisses. There are footsteps on the stairs, the two kissing girls, likely leading the floor in revolution against me for waking them. Joanna's eyes flit over my shoulder, and I worry she might try to escape me before I've had a chance to explain. But instead she grabs me around the wrist and drags me into the washroom, bolting the door behind us. The lantern in her hand bobs like a drunkard. I stumble into the washroom, the backs of my legs connecting painfully with the wash basin. Joanna stands with her hand back to the door, facing me. The washroom is hardly big enough for the two of us, and my shoes cling to the sticky floor. How did you find me? She demands, her voice still absurdly high even when hissed through a clenched jaw. Did you think it would be hard? I retort. Yes, I thought it was quite a good flight. Oh, please. You tried to take your elephant of a dog on a diligence with you. Her frown turns inward, disappointment in herself rather than me. Yes, that wasn't as sneaky as I wanted, but I couldn't leave Max. You didn't bring him, did you? She adds, her voice brightening for a moment before she remembers she's furious at me. Wait, no, tell me why you're here. I'm here to warn you. Warn me? About what? I take a deep breath. I have reason to believe that Dr. Platt's intentions with you are not noble. I expected her to gasp, to step back and press a hand to her chest in the sort of theatrical shock ladies often indulge in. At the very least, I whispered, "No." Instead, she crosses her arms and gives me a withering stare. Really? That's the revelatory information you came all this way to deliver? I nearly execute the step back and hand press I had been so ready to judge her for. You knew? Knew what? That he's a crook and an addict and a degenerate? Of course I did. He's laid out more often than he's sober, and all his business with my uncle is done on credit because he spent a fortune on opium. I thought you were in love with him. She laughs, a brittle sound like a step upon thin ice. You think I'm so stupid that a strange man shows up at my door asking for my hand and I just swoon and say yes? I don't say anything, which only confirms that I do think her shallow enough to fall so hard and so fast for the first man she met who could fill a pair of breeches. So why were you going to marry him? I ask. Because I didn't have a choice, she replies, sinking down so that she's sitting on the edge of the tub, then immediately standing again and wiping something off her nightdress. My uncle was forcing me, and I didn't know how to escape him. I was scared. So you ran away to honeymoon on your own? No, I came to Zurich because that letter your maid stole. It's from the cabinet of curiosities my mother was working for when she died, and they have all her effects. Effects? I repeat. Everything she had with her, Joanna explains. The idiot curator will only give them to a male member of my family. When you told me your maid or friend or benefactress or whatever she was tried to snatch the letter, it was enough of a push to finally do the thing I had been afraid to and come here myself to get them before she could. You think Sim's after your mother's effects? I ask. I had been so focused on Platt, trying to use Joanna's story to fill in the gaps I'd overheard in his, that I'd forgotten Sim. Why else would she care about the letter? I think it likely she convinced you to bring her to my home because she assumed we already had collected them and hoped to steal them, but then learned from the letter that they're here in Zurich at the Kunstkammerstab. I think Platt's after them too, I say. I overheard him talking about his voyage, and he said something about the archive and a cabinet. Did he ever mention that to you? She shakes her head, forehead creasing. No, never. He asked about my mother and father when we first met, but I asked about his, just getting to know you. What work was your mother doing that is so valuable to both him and Sim? I can't come up with something that would wed the two worlds. I don't entirely know, Joanna replies. She was working as an artist assistant to a naturalist on an expedition to the Barbary Coast, one of many journeys. I didn't know that. My father said he sent me to a plantation in Barbados if I told anybody. He was so embarrassed by her, to have a wife literally run from your home in the middle of the night to sail with unspeakables. She runs her finger through the ends of her hair, pulling at the knots. But she wrote me on all her voyages, sent me such strange things. All your stories, I say, realization dawning suddenly upon me. She looks up. When we were children, you always had such great adventures we would pretend to go on. Those were from her letters. You remember that? Of course I remember that. Those were... The lamplight jumps against the wall, making skeletons of our shadows. Those were the best days. They were, weren't they? Her nose wrinkles up into a sly smile. Dr. Brilliant. I roll my eyes. Ha ha, I was only 6. I had not yet peaked creatively. No, it's sweet, she laughs. Everyone should give themselves an aspirational fake name. Well, what about you, famous naturalist? Were my revelation any more sudden, it would have knocked me flat. I actually have to reach back and steady myself against the basin. I got so lightheaded. Joanna, still oblivious, continues with that goading smile that wrinkles her nose. Go on, do you remember? Sybil Glass, I say, and I hear it in my name in Platt's voice. Was that your mother's name? She nods with a wistful sigh. I wanted to be just like Joanna. I overheard Platt just now, I say, talking to some English bloke about Sybil Glass and collecting her work. She almost drops the lamp. Platt is in Zurich. You brought him here. No, he brought me, I explain. The cabinet will only surrender her things to a male member of your family, yes? Do you think that's why he wanted to marry you, so he'd have legal claim to whatever it is she was working on? Joanna sucks in her cheeks hard, mouth puckering. Then she lets out a breath laced with, son of a bitch. It's not a situation for laughing, but I do anyway. In her lilting soprano, it's like hearing a curse in a homily. He can't get them, so long as you aren't wed. Doesn't mean she won't try. He won't try. She presses a fist against her chin, thumb tapping in rhythm to her thoughts. I'm going to go to the Kunstkammer tomorrow to see if they'll give me my mother's effects. No, you have to get out of here before Platt can force a ring upon you, I say. The effects are legally yours, so long as you don't marry him, he has no claim. Come back to England with me, we can figure things out there. About him and Sim, if you think she's after them too. Are you encouraging me to run from a fight? She says, and it almost sounds like a challenge. It's too dark to properly tell what kind of smile is flirting with her lips. I thought you were the brave one out of the pair of us. What? No fighting, I say, then add. And you were the intrepid explorer in our games, remember? I was the level-headed tag-along. Yes, because make-believe is most fun if you can pretend to be something you're not. It took me until the night before my wedding to leave because I've been so afraid to be alone. She scrapes a hand through her hair, pushing it back from her face. Maybe I shouldn't have run. Maybe there was another way, or I should have asked for help or not acted so spontaneously. But I'm here, and I am determined, and I am going to go to the museum tomorrow, and you don't have to defend yourself, I say quickly. Not to me. Oh, good. Well, I'm possibly still making defenses in my own head. She smooths out her nightdress between her fingers, then looks up at me. Do you need money? Money? I repeat. To get back to England. I don't have much, and I can't say I feel particularly obligated to give you a comfortable way home if I'm paying. Home. I have nowhere to go. No Platt, no Sim, no family, no lifelines. I cut my ties and I'm drifting alone, a lifeboat in a windless surf. Could I come with you? I ask. Joanna looks up sharply and I add, I already paid for a night and I can't go back to Platt, so I might as well stay here. And there's no hurry. I peter into a shrug and a toe scuffed against the floor. Or rather, an attempt at a scuffed toe. For the floor is so sticky that it's more of a squelch. I don't dare look at her for fear she'll say no before she can. I take my pieces off the board. Sorry, never mind. You probably don't want a thing to do with me. I mean, if you want me to come, I thought maybe I could, but you probably don't, so I'll leave first thing. Are you having a conversation with yourself? No, I'm conversing with you. Then give me a chance to answer, will you? You can come, if you'd like. Though I can't imagine Dr. Platt will look favourably upon any of his future protégés conspiring against him. If I join Joanna, I will give up on any chance of working for Dr. Platt. Even after overhearing his conversation back at the house and knowing he'd use me ill, it is such a large thing to let go of. Staying with Joanna means I'm better on nothing. Except her, and her mother, and myself. Well, I reply, Good thing I'd rather not be any man's protege. The Kunstkammer is located on the Lemantqui, its back sloping into the river. The water froths fast and dark in miserable weather. The sky is grey, and it snows with intermittent strength as we make the trek across the city. And when Joanna and I arrive at the collection, we are both soaked through our cloaks. Mine borrowed from Joanna so I don't damage our already shaking credibility with dodgy outerwear. A layer of snowflakes dust our shoulders like sugar atop a bun. Joanna made a valiant attempt to arrange her hair before we left this morning, and at her insistence I made a valiant attempt to help her, though was dismissed for my responsibilities when I stabbed her in the back of the head with a pin so hard it drew blood. In her flight from her father's home, though she couldn't bring her dog, she did bring a trunk's worth of extravagant dresses, and a pink skirt hemmed with mint-coloured ruffles peers out from under her cloak. In my plain Brunswick, I'm much more likely of the pair of us to be taken seriously by the men who dart behind the exhibits of bugs and stuffed animals here. I wish I had Max, Joanna says, as we cross the entryway of the cabinet to the ticket desk, eyeing the stuffed form of some kind of devilish-looking wildcat rearing over us from a pedestal in the centre. I don't think he'd win against that, I say, with a nod up to the cat. You've never seen him really go after a slipper, she replies. We step up behind a woman paying for admission for herself and a tiny boy with beautiful blonde curls that have somehow thwarted the snow and remained perfectly ruffled. Joanna takes a long, tight breath, one hand pressed against her stomach. I'll just always feel better with my dog. Don't be nervous, I say. You've got right on your side. When has that ever mattered? She murmurs. The woman and the blonde boy move away from the desk, and Joanna and I step up to the attendant. Good morning, Joanna chirps, and I immediately cringe at how high her voice is, how pitchy and giggly she sounds, and how silly that pink dress looks. I was hoping I might speak to the curator, Herr Wagner. The clerk, who had been prepared only to take our money and write the date upon our admission tickets, looks up very slowly, his brow creased. Were you invited? Herr Wagner and I have been corresponding. Joanna peels a letter out of the carpet bag she brought along, a bit optimistically hoping she'd be leaving the Kunstkammer with it full of her mother's final effects. The bag fared no better than we did in the snow, and the letter emerges as damp as the rest of her. The ink has become splotchy and streaked. When she leans forward to hand it to the attendant, a lump of snow slides off her hood and lands with a plop upon his desk. The clerk frowns and reads the letter, then holds it up for us to see as though we hadn't had a chance before. It's pinched like a dead mouse between his thumb and forefinger. This says the presence of your husband or father is required. My father's dead, Joanna replies. If she hoped to elicit pity, her effort is entirely ineffective. Where is your husband, then? He has... Joanna and I look at each other, and then she says, venereal pox, at the same time as I say, business. The clerk's eyebrows slope. Then Herr Wagner will meet with your husband when he is available. But I'm here now, Joanna says, pressing herself against the desk so that her breasts make a seat of its surface. It will only take a moment, I swear. If you could just tell him, Joanna Hoffman. Girls, the clerk says, and the word sets my teeth on edge. Herr Wagner is a very busy man. He doesn't have time to meet under pretenses. It's not a pretense, Joanna says. I have business with him. Then go fetch your husband, and it can be completed. I step in. Sir, I'm not sure you understand. Young lady, he starts, and that's as far as he gets before I snap back at him. Really? First girls and now young lady. That's how you feel it is appropriate to refer to us, like children. Your current comportment is excessively so, he replies. And your current comportment doesn't give me much reason to believe your brain is your best asset, I reply. Will you please tell Herr Wagner that he has left the daughter of one of this century's greatest naturalists standing in the lobby dealing with a ticket monkey who doesn't recognize a legend when she drops snow upon his desk? I hope I might at least get him quaking with the threat of disrespecting a legacy, no matter how overdrawn that legacy may be. I would have thrown in Joanna's mother's name, except I didn't think naming the naturalist to be a woman would help our case against this pile of mouldy pudding formed into the shape of a man. He blinks once, slowly, then says, with spiteful deliberateness, Ladies, I must ask you to leave. You are causing a scene. I'm ready to spin on my heel and stomp out, well and truly making that scene we have been accused of. But Joanna says with shocking cheer, No, thank you, sir. If we're not to be permitted to see Herr Wagner, we'd like to see the Kunstkammer. Then she smacks her coins upon the table and gives him that devastating smile of hers. He stares very hard at the coins, as though he is hoping they are actually crackers or buttons or something that will give him a legitimate reason to refuse us. Finally, he places his palm over top and slides them along the desk towards him, their edges making a hair-raising scrape against the wood grain that's far more of a scene than we were causing. Men are so dramatic. He hands us 2 admission tickets, then Joanna takes me by the arm and we stalk, dripping and indignant, into the gallery. Well, that went about as expected, she says, at the same time as I say, What a disaster. We cross into the first room of the exhibition, a collection of items from the South Seas. The walls are lined with glass-fronted cabinets, and there's a massive skeleton of some sort of long-necked bird articulated in the centre of the room. We stopped side by side, in front of the first wall where polished gemstones in iridescent turquoise and green are laid out upon dark velvet. I can feel Joanna's carpet bag knocking against my knees, heavy as a history book in its emptiness. That's what you were expecting to happen? I ask her. She shrugs, hefting her bag into the crook of her elbow. I hoped it would go differently. I thought I might charm him. I think I might have ruined that. Yes, thoroughly. She glances sideways at me with no attempt to conceal her frustration. Charm has never been a flower that blooms in your garden, is it? Charming is not a word I'd use or ever want used to describe me, but the way she says it prickles me. It's the sort of thing I feel entitled to say disparagingly against myself, but for someone else it feels blunt and unkind. Well, you're hard to take seriously in that dress, I retort, and then move on to the next case to examine a set of poison-tipped arrows. Joanna chases after me, her heels. Soon she brought heels on her escape, clacking on the tile. What's wrong with this dress? It makes me feel pretty. It's very feminine, I say. Is there something ridiculous about being feminine? To men there is. I keep walking. She keeps following. I don't even stop at the next case, just barrel forward into the second gallery, hoping she'll grow weary of chasing me in those ridiculous shoes in the Lent. But you're the one who said it to me, and you're not a man, she says, somehow still at my elbow. Would you ever wear this dress? That's not the point. Answer it anyway. Why does it matter? She steps in front of me, trapping me with the back against a cabinet of pinned butterflies, which is a rather metaphorical display to be cornered in front of. A few people are already staring. The woman who was in front of us in line has taken that beautiful blonde boy by the hand and led him from the room at a quick trot. This is feeling far too close to the argument that cracked us apart back home. Me cornered and her demanding, both of us lashing. Joanna puts her hands on her hips and tips her chin at me. You think this dress is ridiculous and you are afraid of looking ridiculous. I didn't say that. Do you think it's ridiculous? You're talking too loud. Tell me. Yes, fine, all right, I snap. I think it's a stupid dress, and I think if you keep dressing like that and speaking in that voice and smiling all the time like a fool, no one will ever take you seriously. You think you could present in front of the Royal Society dressed like that and anyone would listen? Men won't take women seriously unless we give them reason to, and that dress is not reason to. It makes us all look pathetic. Can we please go now? She stares me down for a moment, then says, her voice no longer loud but prickled as a rose bush. Now I remember. Remember what? Ever since you showed up, I've been thinking, Felicity. It's so funny, and she's so funny and kind and clever. Why did I ever stop being her friend? But thank you. I just remembered. Her head tips to the side regarding me. I want to look away. It's because when I stopped running around with my petticoats hiked up to my waist and started enjoying the social scene and caring about what I wore, you never stopped taking shots at me for it. I never took shots, I protest. It was you who decided you couldn't bear to be seen with me because I was so embarrassingly unfeminine. You abandoned me. You tossed me out for prettier friends. Felicity, I never abandoned you. I made a choice to remove myself from our relationship because you thought that me liking pearls and pomade meant you were superior to me. I did not. Yes, you did. Every time you rolled your eyes and every little smart remark you made about how silly it was for girls to care about their looks. You refused to let me, or anyone, like books and silks, outdoors and cosmetics. You stopped taking me seriously when I stopped being the kind of woman you thought I had to be considered intelligent and strong. All those things you say make men take women less seriously. I don't think it's men, I think it's you. You're not better than any other woman because you like philosophy better than parties, and don't give a fig about the company of gentlemen, or because you wear boots instead of heels and don't set your hair in curls. I'm not sure what it is that I'm feeling. Something like anger, but with far more shame attached. Anger as a means of defense. Anger I know is completely misplaced, but I still snap at her. Don't tell me how I feel. I'm not telling you how you feel. I'm telling you how you make me feel. I felt so silly for so long because of you. But I like dressing this way. She spreads her arms. I like curling my hair and twirling in skirts with ruffles, and I like how Max looks with that big pink bow on. And that doesn't mean I'm not still smart and capable and strong. I am combing back through my memories, those last few weeks before Joanna and I ruptured, trying to remember what I had forgotten. But I hadn't forgotten a thing. I had just always cast myself in the role of the misunderstood and sympathetic heroine, Joanna, the traitor who had buried a knife in my side and abandoned me for girlier pastures. But Joanna and I had parted ways because of me, and because I thought survival meant stepping on others. I want to apologize. I want to explain that I had felt then like I was losing the only person who knew me and still liked me. I tried to keep her unchanged because while all the other girls were growing out of their childhood fancies, mine were starting to root in my soul, leaving me strange and unruly, but Joanna made me feel natural. I want to tell her I spent my whole life learning to be my own everything because I had parents who forgot me, a brother who never lifted his face from his drink, a parade of maids and governesses who never tried to understand me. I have spent so long building up my fortress and learning to tend it alone, because if I didn't feel I needed anyone, then I wouldn't miss them if they weren't there. I couldn't be neglected if I was everything to myself. But now, those fortifications suddenly feel like prison walls, high and barbed and impossible to cross. Joanna starts to turn away from me, but then lets out a small gasp and instead grabs my hand. I panic, thinking that she had spotted Platt or Sim or some other threat to our well-being that managed to sneak up on us while we were reliving our childhood traumas. But she's staring at the framed pages hanging from the upper gallery. Those drawings. What about them? They're my mother's. They're so high above us, it's hard to see them. But Joanna rushes up, as close as one can get, and when I join her, we stand below, our necks craned. This must have been the work she was doing for the Kunstskammer when she died, Joanna said. Come on. I take her hand, drag her over the tight stairway that leads to the bookshelves in the upper galleries, and step over the rope keeping the public off them, and we squash ourselves upward. These stairs were clearly designed for men, for the tight spiral isn't compatible with so many petticoats. Joanna has to turn sideways so that her wide hips will fit. We dart along the gallery until we are above the paintings, then together grab the wire and haul the first one up so we can see it better. There's a generous layer of dust along the top, and it sticks like frosting to my fingers. The drawings are of dolphins and seabirds, though they look more like hasty sketches, not finished prints to be delivered to a patron. The artistic style and the handwritten notations remind me of the portfolio I saw Sim examining in the Hoffman Library. Look here. I direct Joanna's eye to the plaque at the bottom of the frame. Aquatic Life of the Barbary Coast, Dr. A. Platt, HMS Fastidious, 17... That's a lie, Joanna cries, her voice so loud and in my ear that I almost lose my grip on the frame. These are my mother's, I know it. I've looked at her art my whole life. That's her writing and her sketching style. The Barbary Coast was her last voyage. That's the same ship and the same year she died. Here, I hand her the weight of the frame, and while she searches it for any sign of her mother's name, I fish my list of reasons to be admitted to medical school out of my pocket, the one Alexander Platt had scribbled his opinion all over. I hold it up to the sketches for comparison. It's not his writing. Of course it's not. It's my mother's, she replies. Why is his name on these? What does he have to do with any of this? Did Dr. Platt know your mother? I ask. It certainly never came up if he did. I know he's been on the Barbaries, but he never mentioned it was on the same expedition as her, which seems like something you would tell your fiancé. We look back at the drawings together. At the top of the frame, two seabirds chase each other, one with its wings tucked and the other spread, a few delicate bones outlined beneath the feathers. Aren't they gorgeous? Joanna says, the blade that had been in her voice a moment ago suddenly blunting. The drawings? I had thought they were rather hasty, like the map of a human body I had done on the boarding house floor in Edinburgh. Not something I want hung in a gallery and presented as my best work. No, the animals. Look, they're sandpipers. Trenja ocropus. They nest in marshes and pick food out of the swamp. And each variety has a different bill that allows them to dig in the mud to varying depths, so they don't compete for nutrients. They all live together in harmony. Joanna reaches out and presses a finger to the tip of the bird's wing, leaving a smudge on the glass. And the dolphins. I thought I saw dolphins when I crossed the channel after my father died. It was most likely just very pointy seaweed, but I'd just gotten a letter from my mother about dolphins, right before she decided not to come home for me. Her finger wanders down the sketch, stopping just below the bottom corner. What's that? She pokes one of the drawings, and I have to tilt the frame so I can see past the glare. I don't know. It's a serpentine shape, long and curled with a barbed tail and frills along its belly. It looks like a snake. Aquatic life. She taps the plate at the bottom of the frame. Birds aren't aquatic. Yes, but there are most certainly no snakes in the ocean. And look, it has flippers. She taps a nail against the glass, at the snake's feathered stomach, then leans forward like pressing her nose to it might give her a better idea. What is this? It doesn't look like a snake. It looks like a dragon. That's... My attention snags on something in the same corner, just as, from below us, someone bellows, "Ladies!" Joanna and I both jump. Below is the ticket clerk, his hand cupped around his mouth as he shouts, as though we are a great distance away from him. There's a second man standing next to him, an anxious-looking fellow with a very shiny forehead. When he tips his head back to see us, his wig nearly slides straight off. "You're not permitted to be up there," the clerk calls, his hand still cupped around his mouth. "Or touching the collection," the man beside him says. "Or touching the collection," the clerk hollers, though we both heard the first time. "Come down at once." "Credit my mother for her art and I will," Joanna hollers back. "That work was commissioned by the collection and it is our property," the second fellow shouts, mopping his shining brow with his sleeve. "Come down now or we will call for the police." Joanna looks like she's going to rip the painting off the wall and claim it, so I preemptively wrestle it from her, then let it fall back in place, bouncing on its wires. Both the clerk and his sweating companion gasp. As it falls, I get one quick glance of the sketch beneath the finned serpent, no bigger than my thumbnail. A crown hovering above a thin blade. The crown and cleaver. "This is your final warning," the clerk calls. I drag Joanna down the stairs, and together we stalk past the clerk and curator, who I suspect is the Herr Wagner we were not permitted an audience with. Making our plea for Sybil's things now, when we have broken every rule of the cunt scammer, seems futile, particularly when Joanna says, "Shame!" very loudly in both their faces as we pass. The clerk follows us all the way across the lobby to make certain we leave, while the curator retreats through a door marked "No Admittance" behind the ticket desk. He opens it with such a dramatic flourish that I am offered one brief but impactful glance behind, into a set of rooms lined with glass cabinets. Surely this place must have bowls to hold its treasures, not on display to the public. But I'm offered hardly a glimpse of them before the door is shut hard in our faces. Outside, the snow has swollen into a blizzard. I pull my scarf up over my face. It reeks after days of me pushing my wet breath into it to keep my mouth warm. Joanna is vibrating with anger. I swear the snow streams and melts when it strikes her skin. How dare they? Joanna, they deny me what's rightfully mine. Joanna, they refuse to acknowledge her work. Joanna, they hang her renderings without any credit. Joanna! I step closer to her. The initial idea was to get her attention, but it's so much warmer huddled together that I press myself into her side. The fur lining the hood of her cloak brushes my cheek. Your mother and Platt must have been on the same voyage, and he must know about whatever she was working on when she died. If he got his name on those drawings, perhaps he's trying to take credit for whatever it is she was researching. We need to make sure that you get what she left behind, not him. What's your plan to make that happen exactly? She pulls her face down into her cloak, like a tortoise drawing into its shell. They won't give me her things. Sybil Glass and Dr. Platt are tied up together in this work somehow. And if we want to unravel it rather than just batting it around like cats with a ball of yarn, We need Sybil's last effects. If they won't surrender them, then I'll steal them. Joanna looks up at me. What? We steal them, I say. If we don't, Platt will, or he'll convince Herr Ragnar that you're married or find some other way to claim them. We've got to get them before he does. Joanna regards me, and I can't tell if she thinks me reckless or inspired until she says, wasn't Dr. Brilliant the one who was always telling Miss Glass to quell her reckless spirit lest she get herself killed? Well, Dr. Brilliant isn't here, I reply. Just you and me. And I say, if there were ever a time for recklessness, it's now. She presses her fingers to her lips, surveying me as a slow smile spreads across her face. I like Dr. Montague quite a lot better than Dr. Brilliant. When I laugh, she adds, I mean it, and it was a good list. Oh. I touch my pocket, where my medical school admission plea is again tucked. I hadn't realised she had read it while I had been comparing Platt's handwriting. Thank you. It's been entirely ineffective thus far. Dr. Montague remains in the realm of fantasy with Dr. Brilliant. Give it time, she replies. It won't be a story forever. The cabinet is open to the public 2 afternoons a week, and while we are prepared for theft, I'm not certain we're equipped for a full-scale dead-of-night bolted doors and barred windows break-in, so we have a single opportunity to get inside the following day before having to wait another 6 for the next. We decide that I will do the actual thievery, and Joanna will cause a distracting ruckus as she has, in her words, a figure that is not made for sneaking. Were I required to ascend one of those tight stairways again, but this time in a hurry, she said, I might be wedged, which we both agreed would not be particularly subtle. I make my entrance first. Thank God it's a different clerk minding the desk than the one Joanna and I made a scene with the other day. I linger near the cloakroom, making a long affair of brushing the snow off my shoulders, and also taking an assessment of the lobby. The door at the back of the room didn't seem locked yesterday when the curator made his dramatic exit. Or if it was, he had left it unlatched when he had come out to shout at us, which I'm hoping will happen again. A few minutes after my arrival, the doors open and in comes Joanna. If she had her way, she would have roped a feral dog from the streets, shined it up and brought it with her on a lead to make a real meal of her distraction. Alas, feral dogs are reluctant to be roped anywhere unless there's some sort of stake involved, and we're trying to save the limited coinage we have left. But even without the dog, her entrance is grand. Her confidence blasts through the room like a wildfire, hot and bright and beautiful, but also the sort you want to watch from a distance. She does not look towards me, but rather tosses her scarf showily over her shoulder and makes her way to the desk. The ruffles of yet another ridiculous dress whisper against the floor beside her. Not ridiculous, I correct myself. Softness can be an armour, even if it isn't my armour. Joanna buys her ticket, trading a few sweet remarks with the clerk, who is as red as a beet by the time she floats off into the gallery, looking doe-eyed and helpless, a beautiful girl who knows it but pretends she is unaware. I count at least 3 men whose heads turn as she passes, and as she disappears from my sight, I feel a surge of confidence in our plan. These boys will be falling over themselves to come to her aid. She's been out of sight for a few minutes when there's an enormous crash from one of the galleries, much larger than I expected. She must have gone for the articulated bird. Behind the desk, the clerk stands up, craning his neck like he might magically be able to see through the wall to the source of the noise and determine whether he needs to leave his post to attend it. Then Joanna's histrionics start, crying out and apologising and shrieking. The clerk bolts from behind his desk and takes off at a run towards the commotion. Several other men follow, and those who don't try to act like they're all just happen to be making their way over to the ruckus at that exact moment. The door at the back of the room bangs open, the same harried-looking curator from the day before poking his head out. Had he not appeared, I was ready to rush upon his door and make a zealous cry about a commotion in the gallery he needed to see straight away. He follows the noise, which is turned into wailing, then a gasp from the onlookers, which I imagine means that Joanna has fainted. I make a path across the lobby, like I am too, chasing the excitement, then divert at the last second, catch the door the curator came through, and duck inside the offices. I don't know what trove I was expecting, but the room is disappointingly bare. The glass cases that reflected the light the day previous are full of books, which would ordinarily thrill me, but now is not the time. There are some skeleton bits sitting upon a table beside a magnifying glass, as if they were abandoned mid-examination, a filing cabinet, and a desk that looks to be merely somewhere to set paperwork. In one corner of the room, a spiral staircase leads up to the second-floor gallery with smoking chairs and large windows overlooking Zurich, but the steps go down as well, under the building. I dart over, heft up a handful of my skirts and start the descent. The lower level is unfathomably dark, windowless, and thick with the smell of dust and old paper. Through the pale light leaking down from the stairwell, I can make out the long rows of shelves filled with a seemingly random assortment of skeletons and stuffed animals and feathers and eggshells and beaks and stones, sand samples in glass jars and glistening emerald beetles, the size of my hand stuck through with pins and pressed between glass slides. Dried palm leaves fan out from behind a stack of golden masks. A clock lying upon its side ticks away merrily, though it has no numbers and its hands are moving backward. The shelves seem to stretch infinitely before me and on either side, though I know it's just a trick of the light, or rather, lack of. I start to make my way towards the shelves, though I barely get far enough to step out of the direct light off the stairs before my body makes it known to me that it is not keen on this venture. My pulse elevates, chest tightens. The room feels crowded with the darkness, and so many strange things like mourners at a funeral, all whispering and morose, strangers to each other, but here for a common purpose. You are Felicity Montague, I tell myself, and the darkness, and my heartbeat, in an attempt to rein it in. You have climbed through catacombs darker than this. You escaped from the second-story window with only your bed sheets, and you should not be frightened of the darkness, but instead be sure that the most frightening thing in it is you. I pick two shelves at random to walk between, making a slow study of some kind of preserved organs in milky liquid. A green snake stuffed and coiled up beneath a glass bell, its fangs in a jar beside it. A skull stuck through with a spearhead the size of my forearm, trying to discern any system for organization. I'm going to live out the rest of my life down here if I search each of these shelves for Sybil Glass's last possessions without direction or truly knowing what it is I'm looking for. Maybe it is the snake. I double back to where I was and examine the shelves again, hoping for some clue as to where I should be looking. There are large wooden letters that I missed the first time, nailed to the end of the end of each aisle. The shelves nearest the stairs are labelled AA to AH, the second set AH to AS. No woman on earth has been so delighted by alphabetization as I am in this moment. I look down into the darkness. The G's for glass feel a long way away, though I remind myself I'm fortunate that Sybil's surname didn't begin with a Z. It's more and more difficult to read the alphabetical designations the farther I get from the stairs and the light. I have to reach up several times and trace letters with my fingers to make certain I haven't gone too far. When I find the G's, I turn down the aisle and nearly smack face first into an enormous ape, stuffed so that its body is reared back, arms stretched above its head like it's ready to claw at my eyes. I stumble backward out of the aisle, barely managing to choke back a scream. The tag attached to the foot reads Gibbon, family Hylobatidae, from the island of Java, 1719. Captain W.H. Pfeiffer. You furry little bastard, I hiss at the goblin. Whoever placed you there is very cruel. The gibbon says nothing in return, thank God, or else I might have sincerely shat myself. And then, down the aisle, something moves.
But what moves?
Guess we're gonna have to find out next week.
Oh.
Carmen, I'm so sorry. Your face was like, how dare you?
Yeah, how the fuck dare you? What? It's just another level of being mean. Like, what?
Well, I need to make sure that you come back next week.
I mean, I will, but like, you didn't need to do this.
Ah.
So what? Next Tuesday is the next day?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Carmen.
I'll survive, I think.
I'm having a really good time setting them up like this.
I'm glad you're having fun.
I'm having a lot of fun. Oh. I didn't think last night's was that bad, says Tara. I thought you were going to stop before saying it was Joanna. Oh. I am.
Yeah.
I loved how how when she was like, "Oh, I have to tell you something. I don't think Platt's intentions are noble." I was just like, "You think she's stupid?"
Like, you do know you used to be best friends, right?
Yeah, that's what you're gonna tell her. I thought she was gonna lead with the whole thing of like, "Oh, I think he's trying to get something from you, not just his intentions are noble." Of course not. Like, of course, it's like some sort of business marriage.
Was there any such thing as a different marriage back then? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
okay, I can confirm that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week are available. I'm working opens at work, so I will be more than available for evenings for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week.
Yeah.
Better be.
Okay.
Yeah, we need you. You're
Oh
stuck
my
now.
god! Like, what is? Yeah, I just. And I mean, I had like two sessions of story time tonight because I caught up like right before this, and I just want to keep reading, but I can't.
I really enjoyed reading this book, and it does have that kind of like impetus of like, I'm just gonna keep reading this and keep reading this. Oh, it's done. How long have I made? 12 hours. Cool.
Not like 12 hours. It's fine.
And Draken, you did fantastically.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's so good.
We really love it.
Oh, you guys. I need to remember to stay slowing down because I made a conscious effort to be like, okay, you need to slow down for a couple of sessions there, and then I forgot about it. So I need to keep doing that shit.
You mean like reading slowlier? I don't know
Yes.
if that's a word. Oh.
Slowlier.
Why do you want to read slowlier?
Because it's better.
Ah.
It's just
I was
like,
gonna say, I haven't felt anything like I haven't felt like it was rushed at any point.
Yeah.
But maybe
yeah,
it's
I
because
just find that
I'm in a rush.
yeah, I just find that like I stumble over words a lot less if I'm going more slowly.
Oh, I hear it. Yeah, I do get. I know that. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that feeling.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Lyric,
Okay.
you want to get high?
Yes. Ah, Okay. We should stop the recording though.
What? I wasn't invited to this party. What is happening?
Okay.
Can join us. We should say goodbye to the catch-up crew though. 'cause,
Okay, so
yeah.
catch up crew. It's very important before you go on an adventure to be very prepared. So in addition to the layers that you need to keep with yourself, that which we talked about yesterday, the other thing that you need to keep is a little light, like a little torch that you can keep on your key ring. Bring that shit with you. Could save your life from a stuffed gibbon in the basement of a museum in Zurich, for example.
Yeah. Also, like, live gibbons are super fucking cute. Highly recommend. If anyone's in Winnipeg and wants to go see some gibbons, we have a bunch at the zoo. Alex and I'll just like, the gibbons are one of the stops we always make at the zoo. Okay, I know you're coming. Yes, we're going to the zoo. We're also going to try to catch the polar bears swimming. It's going to be a very nice time.
I fucking love the zoo.
Me too. Honestly, like the zoo is one of my favorite things, and it's a conservation, and they have this whole section about climate change at the zoo, and I love our zoo.
Yeah.
And on that note, everyone come to the Winnipeg Zoo.
Everyone come to the Winnipeg Zoo. Yeah, a friend of mine has had a particularly anxious like lockdown and is finding it difficult to come out of it again and doesn't want to go like do any like go to a restaurant or even like go to the shop sometimes. And so the way that I'm encouraging them is that we're going to go to the zoo together.
I love that. That's such a good idea. If
It's
we don't make it out
outdoors.
to the lake this weekend because of wildfires, I'm totally going to ask Alex if he wants to go on a date to the zoo. So thanks for making me think about the zoo.
Absolutely. You can make yourself like a fancy like lunch picnic with like a nice grain salad or some shit.
Yeah, that sounds super nice. Kraken says hi.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. Are we going to say goodbye to the catch-up crew then?
Yes. We love you, catch up crew. We're glad that you're taking this journey with us.
We love you.
Bye, catch-up crew.